Alright, let's get this party started. So welcome to another Classic of the Month for RunThinkShootLive. This month, by request, I must emphasize, I'm playing my own mod, Radix. I made this in 2002, and this was originally released and made as part of Project Quantum Leap, which was a collaborative mod among about, I think it was 15 mappers at the old Valve Editing Resource Center forums. And it was not my idea. I didn't start it, but I ended up being the sort of the project manager for the mod. My entry was Radix. You might know some others offhand. Caged by Kaylee George was part of that, and Someplace Else by Adam Foster, of course, was part of Project Quantum Leap originally too. So I think the three of us decided at some point to release our mods as standalones as well. Yeah, overall, the quality of Project Quantum Leap, since anybody could have entered, we didn't screen for quality. It was, let's say, at best, a roller coaster. Some of the maps in there were just terrible, to be honest. So, given that Someplace Else, I think was last, or I can't remember I think it was last or next to last, I guess, in Quantum Leap, and mine was somewhere in the middle, and Kaylee George's was, I don't know, somewhere in the early third or so. There were some people that played it that just didn't get past the first couple maps because they looked awful, and I don't blame them for not playing further on. So anyway, that was our motivation to kind of release these separately. So, so yeah, the way I'll approach this, I'm just going to play through this straight through, at first. Try to keep the commentary to a minimum, and then I want to take a look at some of the test maps I did in building Radix. It's sort of a making of, but I'll play through it at least twice. It's a fairly short mod. It may take 12-15 minutes to get through, and to be honest, I know it better than anybody. And I'm going to look at some other gold source maps that certainly inspired the look and feel of Radix. Not the plot per se, but the look and feel certainly. And then I'll look at some of the notes and sketches I made during the production or design of Radix. And all right, here goes. I'll crank it up to hard for the playthrough. It's been several years, but. I still have the old models.
Oh no. That's odd. Well, do you have any idea what to do next? No. You have no idea what is going on, do you? This is all within theoretical limits. Shut up. This should make you feel better. No! Remember to report that fluctuation.
Indeed. So, I don't want to speed through this totally, but yeah, I don't want to linger at parts that I know are, dead ends. This section took way too long to get right, but I'll talk about that later. Frozen Hound Eyes. The excellent Poke 646 textures have a starring role in this mod, let's say. So I did pick a lot of textures that were already out there in the Half-Life world to try to give Radix a fresh feel. There are some standard... Yes, greetings. There's standard Half-Life textures here, but not that many, to be honest. the name Radix. I actually popped that up quickly on the pre-stream. It means point of origin. It's also a mathematical term. I think it's
Yes, this all looks nominal.
something to do with parabolas. It's the point around which a parabola is based, I think. Yes.
My God, what are you doing?
Cryogenic chamber deactivated.
Oh, Chanticleer. It actually, I think, is a name for a rooster. I really like the sound of the name, so use that as the ship name.
Get back! I don't suppose you'd reconsider. Okay, I hope you know what you're doing.
Yes, I didn't originally have all that text there, but I wanted to make clear to the player what they needed to do. So I know this is a dead end, but I'll go down this way first. Yeah, I tried to keep a light tone while, you know, mixing in some some serious combat here and there. I have to remember I'm playing on hard too. Yep. This is one of the very first sections I built for the mod here. I'll come back to this in some of the map sections that I'll show you quickly. So there is actually a way to get up there, but I'll show that later too. I forgot how fast slaves shoot on hard. You didn't make it, actually. Also did not make it.
Yeah, we might stand a better chance if we team up.
Yeah, you can't take them up the ladder, of course, so the only way is back out this way. Kind of wonder if I should have made that clearer, but
Our luck
and this
has
door
to
is
change sooner or later.
that door is closed behind us, so new path opens.
I wonder if those boys could have made a bigger mess.
Greetings. Put that down. It's a prototype.
Man, why aren't we using it?
Sector 3 Bay breach detected.
Didn't you already ask me that?
Again, can't really take Barney with us here. By design. Because this is a hell of an ambush down here. This is the hardest section in the map right here. Again, by design. Boy, alright, now I'm in trouble. Yeah. Told you it's been a while since I played. I know where most of these grunts are, but not all. Damn, one hit. Ouch. I should have cranked it back down to medium. Oh, I do have grenades still. Alright. Yeah. It's supposed to be smoother than this. I mean, I knew I made this section challenging, but man. Well, I would not advise this, but... Well, let's... Geez, there's still two left there. Oh. Yeah, I really wouldn't advise that. I can't even get a shot off on these guys. Wow, okay. Alright. I might have to cheat on my own mod. Alright, hey, I got one more guy down. I think the only guy left is up here. Yep. And, yeah, I gave him grenades intentionally. Yep, and he's kicking my ass with them. Well. Oh, and there's one more down there. Damn it. I'm in trouble. Yeah, this is really bad. I don't think I have much option left here either. I can't easily pick him off. Yeah. Well, this is my playthrough on hard, you guys. Almost had him. Oh, I can get past this guy now.
Alert. Tactical detonation device activated. Reach minimum safe distance 60 seconds. Emergency SA1 activated.
Yeah, I knew where they were.
Emergency SA2 activated.
Let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, right. Man, that was tougher than I thought. Who the hell designed this mod? Someday. Alright, well, that was a playthrough with minimal commentary, and damn, it kicked my ass. But yeah, I do want to make this much more interesting for you guys. So, actually, before I do some quick looks at map pieces as I was building Radix, I want to do the first game giveaway, and this is courtesy of Aaron over at Steam Contests. This is for Downwell. Let me link it in the chat real quick. So the Steam page is there in the chat. You are late, Adam, but all I did, so this is going to be a multi-stage sort of presentation. All I did was play through my map straight there, and, well, with some difficulty, but, and now I'm going to go into the making of and show some notes, some maps that inspired it, and some pieces of mapping that I did as I was designing it over the course of about 2 months. So, yeah, I just kind of did a quick playthrough with minimal commentary, but many struggles. I played on hard, and I forgot how how difficult the cargo bay is with all those grunts. Anyway, so the link to Downwell on the Steam in the Steam store is listed in the chat. In a second, I'm going to ask a question about it. Answer can be found on that page. First person that can answer it in the chat will win Downwell. And Philip will have to get your email or Steam ID and send the game that way. He's got it as a gift. I don't have the code for it. So, yeah, that's not the interesting part, though, Adam, I think. So I will play Radix, probably with cheats on, just to talk about, kind of do a director's commentary walkthrough, which shouldn't take very long, but there are some interesting bits, perhaps, that I can share during building and testing. So, probably interesting to a member like yourself, I'd say. Okay, so Downwell. Again, the link is in the chat there. The question is, what does the young person use to protect himself in Downwell? First one in the chat with the answer, win Downwell from Philip. What does the young person use to protect himself? Oh, it looks like Awesome Robin gets it. I'm not sure Awesome Robin has a Steam account, but yes, she won anyway. Hi, Play. How's it going? All right, congratulations, Robin. So on with the. Let's see. What am I going to do next? I'll take a quick look. How do you? Yeah, I happen to know Awesome Robin in real life, so. I did not feed her with the answer. I guarantee that, but I don't think she'll be able to redeem it anyway. Robin, do you want to pass it on to winner number 2? Okay, back to our main event here. So I'm just going to look at load up a couple of test maps and whatnot that I built during the during the production of Radix. So I designed it in 2002, the first 3 months of 2002. And as I mentioned, this was part of Project Quantum Leap, and we had specific restrictions as part of Quantum Leap. That we could use very minimal custom content. So custom textures were okay, but otherwise the map had to be standard Half-Life stuff. You couldn't use custom weapons or enemies or sounds, even, I think. So there was little in the way of customization other than the look of the map itself, the textures, for example. So given those restrictions, I think we came up with a pretty diverse set of maps, 15 maps over the course of the mod, which I think was there's 15 authors. I think there were 20 maps in Quantum Leap actually. So we had some Zen maps, we had some outdoor desert maps, we had some indoor Black Mesa style maps, and a prison, and of course a spaceship. So pretty diverse set, but. Let me show you the first section of the map that I built when I started mapping Radix. Yeah, and that was this section, just that small sort of elevated cargo area. I already have at least one set of grenades here. So early on, I knew that I wanted the first combat that the player stumbled across to be that grenade battle with the alien grunts. It was a little bit experimental, but I wanted to kind of shock the player, who was probably used to, from playing every other mod in the world, starting out with a crowbar and a pistol, and fighting headcrabs and zombies for the first 10 minutes. I wanted to start by, kind of shocking the player out of the first, say, 5 minutes of the mod, where you just of this map, excuse me, where you just kind of wander without weapons. You get to see Bill escape his cryo chamber, and you get knocked out, but there's no combat during that stage. So Later on, I'll show you the full hallway. But if the player, it's timed so that the player comes out the hallway and runs down the walkway there, where the alien grunts are, will be in a later version of this map. The alien grunt opens the door right in his face. So if he doesn't explore a bit, if he or she doesn't explore a bit, it'll be certain doom. Let's say. So yeah, so not even functional now. I don't think I have the full puzzle quite set up here, but I just wanted to show off the very first section of the map that I built. Let's look at some versions of the next section that I built, and that was really inspired by Alien, the movie, as you can probably glean from this. Again, using mostly Half-Life textures, but I wanted the MedLab look and feel, sort of. As it exists here, it's just a room. You can see it's totally sealed off. But I already had the spotlight lighting and sort of the medical bay beds here that I wanted to evoke the look of Alien. So let's look at another version of this. So a little more fleshed out. Not much extra detail. I haven't, fully blocked off this door yet, for example, but I think the difference here is the colored lights. I made these monitors cast, slight pink and blue glows. So not a big difference from the last version. But let's keep going. Alright, now I've got this door fully blocked off. So a little more, I think I've darkened the lighting around the room. I've thrown a spotlight on the, two spotlights on the medical chargers. I wanted to highlight those because those are not the standard, of course, not the standard Half-Life texture for the medical chargers. So I found a great custom texture by Crinity. He was working on a mod called Crinity, which unfortunately never got released. But he made this pretty cool texture set, including custom medical and HEV chargers. And so this door is still blocked, but I do have, I think, at least the doorway down. Oh yeah, just to the end of the hall here. So I've started to build out corridors. And I think at the time I didn't really have a good vision of how I was going to connect the cargo bay with this, with the cryo chambers, which I'll show you in a bit, I think. And yeah, it kind of all came together, like I said, over the course of a couple months. But it was, the first big map that I actually built, this was kind of haphazard. So I called this cryo, but this is really obviously the teleport chamber where you first arrive. Very first version of it. Yeah, I had some of the basics down, but everything was way overscaled. So let me show you another version of this. Alright, got the doors, got the chamber scaled right. Still have that weird Xbox texture on there, but yeah. So just starting to play with lighting and what I wanted to highlight in this opening area of the map. Not sure. This is a later version. Do I have the scientist? Yeah, I do have the scientist here. Oh, I've got the full sequence. Okay.
Wow. That's odd.
Alright, we don't have to watch that whole thing.
Well, do you have any idea what to do next?
This probably doesn't go very far. Oh yeah, didn't have the light. This is where I wanted a nice view of the ship, and sort of give the idea of space. I wish I had found a better skybox, but back in 2002, the options were kind of limited. So I stuck with the standard Half-Life space background, but I did want some subtle but interesting lighting here to kind of make the player take notice as they kind of went past here. So yeah, not much detail, not even any lights here. So, and that's not. Is this actually stop here? Or? Oh no. Okay, so I did build at least the first cryo chamber. All of these.
Gordon Freeman.
Yeah,
It's good
quiet.
to see you.
Shut it. All of these hound eyes, in fact, all the aliens that are frozen in the chamber are actually environment sprites for you mappers out there. They're not monster generics, they're not monster hound eyes, they're sprites. And I did that to fully freeze the frame rate on them. If you made them almost any other entity, including cyclers, they would move. They like breathe and do their idle animations. So I needed something totally frozen. And since we couldn't... Please, shut up. Since we couldn't use custom models, Sprite was the best way I found to kind of freeze these guys in place. So... And now this is the last version of this section. This probably has the full sequence still. Yeah. Oh, I have the green light, but not the glowing texture of the map here. The sprite does accept a model, yes. You do have to play some tricks with the angles. So if you just put the model in the sprite name, usually the sprite is flipped 180 degrees vertically. But if you get that right, you can, yeah, they're pretty handy. They're obviously non-solid. I think they're frozen frame rate. So yeah, I think I was still playing with the angles here. I didn't quite get that hound eye right. The other guys are okay. Let's see the other aliens are around or not. Yeah. So obviously they're in the exact same pose. So I wanted to vary the angles a little bit to kind of show that they were. Not just make carbon copies of each other. Didn't even have the bill labels set up yet, so I did have this idea early on that I wanted to show that not only were these guys frozen, but that we were kind of looking at and studying. The people on the ship, kind of studying and looking at the weapon. So I do have this. Okay, so this is a fairly, I don't know, mature part of this section of this mod, at least. I don't have the do not press tempting sign there yet. Oh, and I've got a trigger. Yeah, so this is not a complete sequence by any stretch, I bet.
My God, what are you doing?
Cryogenic chamber deactivated.
This was mostly to test that I could make the head crab walk out and try to hit the switch, open the door, and, work everything out. Oh, see, I don't even have him hitting the button yet, so clearly broken. That's where this map will end. There's no teleport back to MedLab yet. I put that all together much later, and I think the only other one I want to show you. So there wasn't much. There weren't many iterations of the cargo bay with the grunts and the final run to the escape pod. I pretty much built those as is. In other words, my first cut at those was, other than tweaking lighting, was essentially the last cut. I planned out the length of the two runs to the two escape pods to be exactly the same, so the player wouldn't feel it was unfair that they chose the longer one, for example. But it doesn't matter because you have to run down both of them anyway. But that was pretty well planned out thoroughly, as I'll show you in my notes before it was built. So the last section I want to show you is just one of the test maps I did for that section where you're looking outside to see the spaceship. So this is nothing here. I think I just copied and pasted and cut it. You see, I've got these red lights were built after when I mentioned there was no lighting here, and I wanted to subtly put something in here. I think I ended up making this width tighter, so this is not quite what it looks like in the final mod, and I'm ashamed to say it probably took me about 20 tests to get this looking right, the name on the ship. As you can tell, it doesn't look as clear as it did in the actual map, and the problem there is, so this texture in the back is from Poke 646, but Mark Schroeder, who made Poke 646, specifically said you're welcome to use any of his textures in your mods, but you can't modify them. So I couldn't just take this. And I actually specifically asked him if he could make an exception. He declined. I couldn't just put this text on the texture in Photoshop, say, and use that as a new texture. That wasn't allowed by his terms of use. So I accepted that and had to sort of generate an overlay, but I didn't want just a black text on the gray background. I wanted white. and getting that to look right with the spotlights and the texture, yeah, it took about 20 to 25 different maps to test and try, for something that the player looks at for maybe 3 seconds. Probably wasn't worth my time, but I am proud of the way it came out in the end. Not this version, but the final version, which I'll show you later as I play through. So, all right, that's the last of sort of the making of maps that I wanted to show you. And what I want to do now is briefly diverge to some maps that inspired Radix, and not maps per se, but screenshots of maps. So Natural Selection, the mod, came out in late 2002, Halloween 2002 to be exact. I finished Radix in about March, April of 2002. So what I was inspired by was were screenshots on the forum. The Natural Selection guys had a great forum, and they had been playtesting by this point, as well as showing off maps. So there were tons of screenshots, tons of maps in progress, cool stories of how the game turned out. There was this one guy, Greedo, I think his name was, who would often post on the forum just detailed sort of narratives of what had just happened in the playtest game that he had been a part of. And it was really interesting. Most of these natural selection rounds lasted half an hour to 45 minutes. It wasn't the 5-minute round of Counter-Strike. It was much more strategic than that. And his descriptions were honestly, enthralling. They were really cool to listen to and sort of hyped me up for this game. And I really based a lot of the look and feel on some of the maps screenshots that I saw on the forums. And let me just quickly show you Caged. This is one of the earliest natural selection maps. So I'm just going to kind of be going around this in kind of tourist mode, just to kind of show off. I didn't have any part in these maps, but I wanted to show off the look of some of them, and you can kind of get a feel for how Radix is really, kind of inspired by this. Still some standard Half-Life sounds you notice in here. Again, this is one of the earliest maps for natural selection. The ones that came later really pushed Gold Source to its limit, and yeah, really looked attractive for Gold Source maps. These were cool at the time. They still kind of are. See the spotlight. Yeah, it does have a source. Yeah, so some of the lights in this map don't really have a source, which kind of bothers me, but I like the sort of the contrast in lighting, which in Gold Source at the time wasn't too common. There, certainly in multiplayer maps, you barely ever had really dark areas and really light areas contrasting. That lighting doesn't really lend itself to the deathmatch playstyle or Counter-Strike playstyle, let's say. But natural selection, it was important to have, because the aliens really, some of the weaker aliens really needed to use shadows and lighting to their advantage. So I think that may. Oh, we'll go over central processing. That's probably about it. All I want to show you in this map. But a lot of metal surfaces, a little bit of colored lights thrown in here and there. So this thing with the smoke coming out is not just a special effect. That's actually a resource node in the game. So this has a strategic use to gather points for your team that you can use to build research weapons and build other things, build other structures to try to defeat the other team. So let's move on to maybe a more interesting map. This is called Hera by Merkaba, who did several natural selection maps. So this bit is just called the Ready Room. This is just a team selection room. So again, you know, colored monitors, colored lighting, cool outside area, which I'm kind of jealous of. I really like the look of this. Holograms, which I borrowed the idea of, you know. Sorry if the music's a little loud, but it's a very cool, like, sort of sci-fi. I like the sort of brown gray color of these walls. I didn't use much of that at all in Radix, but yeah, you know, computer consoles, all this sort of screenshots of these types of maps. I don't know if Hera was specifically one that was being shown early on in the development of natural selection, but you know, I really tried to mimic this this feel with Radix. Now let me show you probably the quintessential natural selection map that kind of really cemented its link to Alien and Aliens, and that's Bast by Relic 25. So again, you know, flickering holograms, glowing consoles. In fact, I think the same texture from Relic, yeah, it was the same texture that I used quite a bit in Radix with the glowing monitor and the yellow and red lights there. This is a mini map, by the way, that I get to check. So again, more spotlight lighting, very metal text, you know, very heavy metal textures, let's say. Actually, a very cool elevator shaft here, but I won't go down there yet. So this is, you know, almost straight out of the movie Alien. The shape of the hallways, the sort of off-white walls, and this door especially. Actually, I don't even think, I guess I can't open it. No, it's dead end. But I will show you the bridge, I think. I didn't use any of these textures directly, other than the ones that I mentioned. Relic, Relic, the guy who made this map, actually designed and shared with the community to use. The natural selection textures themselves were not available to use outside of natural selection, so it's unfortunate because they had some really cool stuff. But I love the look of this bridge. I wish I could have made the escape shuttles that I had in Radix a little sharper, a little more interesting, but you only spend a few seconds in there, so I'm not too concerned about it. And I think the only other section I want to show you here is the refinery, which, yep, this is it here. So one of the hive locations for the aliens, if you've played this mod, but a very cool, like, gold-colored industrial area. And I really wanted, I'd always planned in Radix to, oh, hey Bollocks, how's it going? I always planned in Radix to make a huge, like, refinery slash engineering area, and simply ran out of room in my map. I could have expanded it to 2 maps for Project Quantum Leap. A couple of the mappers actually did 2 back-to-back maps instead of just a single map, but I really wanted to keep it 1 map, so I think I was pushing it, the limit at the time, the engine limits at the time for, I think, planes, if not clip nodes in Radix, so I kind of had to cut some of the planned content out. But in my mind, it would have looked something like this. So 2 more early natural selection maps to tour around, just to show off what I was looking at the time when I built Radix. And this is still one of the best looking natural selection maps. This is Nothing by Ken Banks, NS Nothing. And what I really want to call your attention to here is the lighting. And Actually, let me head the other way first. His use of spotlights and projected lighting in this map through various mapping tricks has fantastic results. Like this red light coming through here, I love that. You know, just the look of the interesting contrast of lighting in this room is still something you don't often see in gold source maps. It's not just, you know, spotlights, it's the clever application of other map tricks to get sort of the various projections on the wall, that type of thing. So let me go down the quad lift first. Yeah, I wish I could have put some bottomless pits. Well, not quite bottomless in Radix, but didn't really have the room. And never got anywhere near this type of sort of interesting architecture and lighting. But yeah, certainly inspired a novice mapper like me that I was at the time. So, still inspiring to this day. If I want to look at interesting lighting and gold source, this is one of the go-to maps, certainly. And I have to tell you, this is still creepy walking around this map, even though I know I'm by myself. I expect to see aliens around every corner. It's a little freaky. Yeah, some more relics textures. I'm not sure I used that particular one anywhere. I think I might have in Radix. But I just love the atmosphere this casts. Between the cool architecture, even in the corridors, the metal textures, and the lighting. Yeah, it's just very cool. And one last map to look at for natural selection. And this one, so these maps weren't, like I said, weren't out at the time. There were various screenshots, usually works in progress early on in development, that were shown off at the forums. That's what inspired me. The actual final map looks much better in most respects than those screenshots did, but they carry the same sort of atmosphere. And that's what I was going for. And this is Veil by Andrew Weldon, who now works at Bungie, working on Destiny. Yeah, actually, let's kick around as aliens in this map. Why not? So what I want you to pay most attention to in this map is, again, the color of the lighting. Not necessarily the lighting itself. In other words, the shadows or spotlights like we looked at in the last map, but the great use of colored lighting, like this sort of orange. It's very easy as a mapper, especially for Quake and Half-Life and early games like that, to overuse colored lighting, since that was a relatively new thing, believe it or not, in the late 90s. And there were gaudy maps. You look at some of the maps for Half-Life, mods for Half-Life, for example, and they're just filled with bright blue and red and yellow, and it's really god-awful. But this map does it right. It uses sort of a neutral, you know, again, that gray-tan texture, which takes on the color nicely of all the lights that you put around the map. You know, the glow of the monitor, the red lights coming from the ceiling up here. And, I don't want to go down a cargo hive. Let's go this way. So that's what makes this map stand out. Other than, you know, it being a great map to play, the lighting is just nice and varied and just really atmospheric. The fabled double node here, nano grid. Yeah, natural selection was a really cool mod, but I think what maybe one of its impacts that lasts to this day is how it pushed the gold source limits. These maps, I don't know if you get a scale from this sort of overview map, but some of these maps were like sprawling. They actually had to modify the compile tools for the map to increase some limits that the engine could handle, but the compile tools could not. So they modified those compile tools, and yeah, and just had, you know, tons of work on all these maps. It wasn't just crank out a map in a week and release it. It was, you know, they play tested it over and over and over, tweaked the lighting for hours on end. This is one of the hive locations. Again, you know, you get green, red, blue lights, sort of all in one area, but not overdone to the point where it's gaudy. Nice red cast around the hive. But I am kind of a zergling. I'm about a wolf-sized alien at the moment, and the eyes are sort of in the mouth at this. Not really, but that's the way they put the first-person view. I'm called a skulk. So I'm the lowest level of alien. Obviously, I can wall walk and ceiling walk. And later on in the game, I can actually do a flying leap at the Marines, which is really cool. So this is the Marine start, the Marine headquarters here. Yeah, it holds up to this day. For the Gold Source engine, this may be, for my money, probably in the top 5 most beautiful maps for Gold Source. Yeah, one of the reasons this was never as popular as Counter-Strike was because it was slower paced. Rounds in natural selection usually lasted half an hour at a minimum. So I can't do it now, but one of the unique aspects of natural selection, and it held on to natural selection too, was as a Marine. Actually, let me jump to Marine real quick. And I'll show you. The Marines have a commander. So if you jump into this pod, you actually become the commander for the Marines, and it becomes a real-time strategy game for this person. You basically guide your Marines to build structures. Let's see. We've got to place this here. You know. So you have a full top view of the entire map. You see the mini map over here. I can skip around, and so the commander plays it as sort of a real-time strategy game, while the Marines that are actually playing are relayed the commands from the commander, and you know, I would get commanded, for example, to build this structure. So this is placed, but it's not actually intact yet until I kind of use it, and it's full health and operational. And then this is a turret factory. This allows me to build turrets around to protect against the aliens. Now, on the other aspect of this that was unique was that the two teams in this game were so different. You had the Marines, which I'm playing as now, which are more or less, you know, like a standard first-person shooter. You have your machine gun, you have your pistol, you have a knife, and you have mechanical structures like this. Whereas if you play as the aliens, there's 5 different classes of aliens. They all have different abilities. One is a builder of structures. One is a healer. Yeah, he's the same guy as a healer. One can fly. One can sort of teleport around the map, and the other one is the size of a rhinoceros that can swallow Marines whole. It's actually it was a bold move, and it took a lot of tweaking on the designer's part, I think, but in the end it was a fantastic mod that was a lot of fun to play. And later on they added a deathmatch mode. Actually, let me show you quick. This didn't actually inspire Radix, but I love the look of it, and I always thought Radix looked a lot like it, to be honest. Let me play as Alien here. Yeah, this was certainly inspired by Alien and AVP and Aliens, you know, the sequel. Predator to a lesser extent, but so this is the deathmatch mode of natural selection. These were much smaller maps. The rounds probably only took 15 minutes instead of 30 or so, and like this is, I've just traversed the entire mod here, or the entire map here. Now I'm at the Marine start. So if I were playing against Marines, I've already would have stumbled across them and been dead probably. But anyway, so this combat mode they call it, was more or less designed to be an easily accessible version of natural selection to kind of compete with things like Counter-Strike and you know, mods like that, which are easy to jump into and easy to leave. The full natural selection map, like I said, would take a long time to kind of play out usually, unless one team was terrible, and then the map would be over in 5 minutes. But that was rare. So the force quit Half-Life here. Hang on. Alright, well guys, I appreciate you sticking around. Now I will have a giveaway. So speaking of natural selection, I've got a copy of Natural Selection 2 to give away. So Natural Selection, the mod of Half-Life, led to the development of a full game called Natural Selection 2. Actually by the same team, more or less. And it was released... I don't know, 4 years ago, perhaps? Sorry, I'm watching the movie on the Steam page. So that's the link in the chat is the Natural Selection 2 page. As I said, these were developed by the same, more or less the same core team. A lot of the original maps were remade for Natural Selection 2. They actually... developed their own engine as well, called the Spark engine. Yeah, I know it's a black screen. Sorry, I'm pausing it at the moment. But here, let me throw something up instead. Some of my notes for Radix, but we'll come back to that. So I've thrown the Natural Selection 2 Steam link in the chat, and in a minute I'll have a question about that. First one to answer will win Natural Selection 2. So they made Natural Selection 2 in the same vein as Natural Selection. It's got the same 5 classes of aliens, for example. It added, in addition to a Marine commander, like I just showed you, it added an alien commander, too. There's a bit of controversy about that, because in the original mod, the aliens didn't have the equivalent of the Marine commander. They played independently. But in my opinion, that was even better, because it really highlighted the asymmetry, the differences between the two teams. I love playing as aliens in Natural Selection because it felt so different than every other first-person shooter out there. Anyway, Natural Selection 2 has added that alien commander. Gotten pretty good reviews, and it looks awesome, of course. And they're still patching it now and then. So yeah, this was released 2012, so about 3.5 years ago. And the question, so the first person to get this in the chat will win Natural Selection 2 from me. What is the name of the alien race in Natural Selection 2? I will not accept aliens as the answer. Actually, is that answer even on this page? Probably should have checked that. They are not Zerg. Yes, they are Kara. Very good. Retsibsi? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Yeah, sorry, Retsibsi got it, but Kara was the answer. Easier to pronounce. Okay, all right. Rhett, I'll call you, I guess. If you want to shoot me your email address in a whisper, I will send you the game right now through Steam. Okay, sent. Let me know if you yeah, if you have trouble redeeming that, Rhett, just shoot me an email or tweet me or something like that. So with that giveaway done, hope you enjoy Natural Selection. But I would encourage anybody who's interested in the look of the original Natural Selection, simply download the mod and kick around it in single player like I did. Especially mappers. I've drawn a lot of inspiration over the years from Natural Selection, even if you're not building a spaceship mod, for example. Just the lighting, the textures, the layouts and connectivity of all the areas in Natural Selection are really, the official maps are really top notch. And yeah, for my money, they're probably still some of the best maps out there for Gold Source. So here, I just wanted to show you some sketches I did during the development of Radix. This is the cryogenic area here at the bottom. This is where it's teleport doors. This is the look out to the Chanticleer hull. These are the cryo rooms, and the one eventually that leads to Bill is down this hallway. Yeah, good luck calling that number. I have no idea who that is. Probably an X or something like that. Yeah, just sort of chicken scratch. So this would have been February 15th, 2002, a long time ago. But I scanned these in, over the years. Initial ideas for Radix. This probably would have been in January 2002. Sort of laying out my ideas for how the mod would unfold, as you played it. Into the teleporter bay, see the cryo chambers, wake up in the med lab. Some ideas here. Weapon strip, because this was a mod that you played through sequentially. Quantum Leap was a mod you played through sequentially. So each mapper had to be responsible for sort of stripping the weapons of the player and giving them the weapons that they wanted in their map. Because you never knew what the previous mappers would have given you. So the mod could have either been possible or ridiculously easy, depending on what weapons the player had when they entered the map. Yeah, this is interesting to look back, sort of my thought process and what came to be and what didn't. Barney, it doesn't go back to a weapon stash. He does lead you to one. This defense system control area would have led right to this engineering/refinery area that I envisioned, that I never built because I simply didn't have room in the map for it. This is the engineering, yeah. So these are 4 quadrants in the engineering area. I had enemies. I had, some of this lived on. I had, sector 3 bay breach detected, and then Barney says, "Oh shit!" after that. So some of this lived on in the actual build of the map that I did. Docking, yeah. So some early ideas here lived on. The big combat finale was in the docking bay, the cargo area. I never implemented that. If the player returns here, the ship explodes and the airlock door seals. So yes, most of these lived on. Bill the Evil Genius Headcrab will return someday. My oh so clever idea of making the player run to pod 1 and pod 2. Yeah. Working out what textures I wanted in various areas, and the text I wanted in the intro, in the middle. These are the Vox, the announcement system timing that I needed to work out at the end. Yeah, interesting to look through all these. Textures that I needed to build. So there's a handful of textures that I made for Radix. mostly details like the holographic signs and the Chanticleer text and things like that. Not a ton of like surface textures, but I made detail textures. Yeah, my original view of how the med lab area would look, I can't even really decipher this now into. Oh, this sort of looks right. Med lab around two corners, off to the weapons supply where you meet the scientist. I never implemented the defense systems control areas, engineering areas. Never implemented that. Didn't have room for it. Yeah, although, I would say System Shock 2 was a bit of an influence on this. At the time, I had only ever played the demo of System Shock 2, so I hadn't had experience with the full game. There are a lot of parallels, of course. A lot of people say a parallel to, or clear inspiration for Radix was U.S. Darkstar, and that's not really true. I mean, it's only in a general sense that there's a spaceship in the Half-Life universe that has aliens on board. I had certainly played Darkstar before I mapped Radix a couple times and loved it, of course, but I didn't really look to it as inspiration. This was much more inspired by Alien and Aliens, the movies, and Natural Selection Mod. So, other texture names. Oh, sorry, Nushbag. This is sort of my making of notes of Radix, which I will play again in just a minute with some detailed commentary and criticism. So this is me working out the modular lengths of the runs the player has to do to Escape Pod 1 and Escape Pod 2 to make sure they were the same length and the player didn't feel cheated one way or the other. Oh, hey, and the NCAA tournament in 2002, which Maryland won, I'm proud to say. But yeah. So, scratch notes. I was actually out of town in San Diego at this time, but anyway. This I've already looked at. This is sort of more early ideas for the cryo area. Hound Eye is down here, Slaves here, Alien Grunts here. And I wanted, the Alien Grunt hive hand to be sort of a display case here. Ladder up to Bill, yeah. So, sort of top-down sketches. You can see in just a minute how these kind of played out. Textures I needed to, things I needed to. So some of these are detailed mapping notes to myself. What I had to trigger in to turn on and off in when certain things happen in the map. And this is the last one here. Again, just sort of more general notes on how the flow would go. This whole defense system bit here was never designed or implemented. Designed only on paper. Enemies that I wanted. Never did put any. I did put some mini turrets in. No tanks or lasers or anything like that, though. And I think that's it. That's the last section I wanted to show you. Now I'm going to run through Radix probably with cheats on. I won't even play what I don't have to, and just kind of give you notes on various sections. Yeah, we'll play it easy this time. So I can't say I totally captured the feel of natural selection in this area, but I like to think it came close with the textures that I was using. So.
Well, do you have any idea what to do next?
One of my favorite things to do in single-player maps is to use the existing Half-Life scientist speeches and things like that to make funny combinations, and I think this came out pretty well. It's a little bit silly, I have to admit, not just having the scientists upside down, but the whole idea. The whole idea of an evil genius head crab to be, it's kind of absurd, it's kind of stupid, it's kind of silly, but That's what I wanted, and I think it came away okay. Yeah, so people, sometimes say this mod is silly. I fully accept that. I don't, this example of the texture I made is these special labels for the various areas that are holograms. So you see, compared to my example map before, how the Chanticleer text is more solid white, and it took me many, many tries to get those spotlights on the text on the ship to look right. Yeah, this was a difficult area for something the player might not even glance at as he walks past. I added that blue star in there for a little bit of depth. Yeah, a lot of these places trouble me because I would love to improve them, given what I know now. God, 14 years later? Yeah, seriously. I labeled that Cryolab 2 because I wanted to give the impression that this was one of many cryolabs on the ship. So you didn't just, as you went through this map, didn't just have to fight 4 hound eyes, 4 slaves, and 4 grunts, alien grunts. I wanted to give the impression that everybody on the ship had escaped when you let Bill out. So textures of the freezer here were actually from Gunman Chronicles. Worked out pretty well. Of course, the excellent Poke 646 posters of the enemies. And you guys are supposed to be walking around, not stuck. Yeah, that's stupid. These were an afterthought. I wanted to kind of build up the hype a little bit to who is Bill, what is Bill. So had to make this lamp not solid because players get stuck on it coming up the stairs. So playtesting is key.
This all looks normal.
And I added this to be silly too, the do not press. Everybody needs to press a do not press button, right? So
My God, what are you doing?
Cryogenic chamber deactivated.
this is the texture I mentioned was all over the place in Relic's map and Nitro Selection, that blue monitor. So one of the things I had done better here was make it easier for the player to view what was going on down below. You kind of have to jump in the
I
window.
don't suppose you'd reconsider.
Yeah, I wish I had designed that better.
Okay, I hope you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think the med lab turned out pretty well. It's a little sparse on detail, but I wanted to show off the lighting a little bit here, even though there's very basic shapes in the architecture. I wanted the lighting to do the work in this area, and then especially the spotlights highlighting the new medical chargers. So right down this hall is that encounter I mentioned with the alien grunts and the grenades. I wanted to shock the player, to be honest, who was used to starting out with a crowbar and a pistol. I wanted them to fight a tough enemy right away without being well armed. And if you just run down this hallway, the timing should work out pretty well. Yeah, I thought it was better than that, to be honest, but alright, so let's look. I got my butt kicked there, but let's go back here. Yeah, it was hard, but there are 10 grenades there. And you can, if you're really in trouble, you can just run past the grunts and up the ladder. And obviously they can't chase you, so. There are a couple of secret areas around here. You obviously can't use this. You can't do anything to any of these crates. But can, if you notice the sparks up there, do that. won't break that crate just yet. So I put the slave up here as a hint that you could actually get up here. Where is it? So there's a satchel to find. I wanted to reward the player well for getting up here. And if you really poke around, there's another reward over here. Oh, let me just do this. And one more. So it really was a lot. Oh, I can't even do that. Too bad. Well, I can go to the ladder over here. So if you did manage to get up there, you get a satchel charge, a snark nest, you look around, and a battery if you break that crate. So that's quite a bit of extra supplies you got there. Now that part with the slaves killing the scientist was not scripted. That worked out. They seem to only be active once you're sort of climbing the ladder. So even though they spawned there quite a while ago, I think, they actually don't become active until you get close. One of the other things I regret is sort of this long backtrack through this area without anything happening. But yeah, live and learn. This I actually scripted, or not scripted, but I set up manually. I didn't let Hound Eyes just kill the scientist. I actually removed the scientist that was walking around the hallways, and I spawned this decal and dead scientist right in that spot. So a little bit of trickery to make sure it looked right. One of my main regrets... Oh, that is gone. Okay, great. Yeah. I wish I had broken this glass. So I wanted to show that the alien grunts woke up, took their weapon back, and, you know, made off with it. I should have probably broken this glass at the same time, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, we might stand a better chance if we team up.
And yes, I realized I was building an escort mission, but it's minimal.
Our luck has to change sooner or later.
So you notice these doors opening. It's a little more, maybe more obvious in a bit here. This was all intentionally planned. What I wanted the player to get the sense of was sort of being herded to a specific area or guided to a specific area. Notice this door will open by itself up here too. The idea was that Bill, the head crab, was sort of guiding you through the ship the way he wanted you to. That was a playful thing. I just put that in there to make it seem like the slave was using the med charger. There's one door that does not open by itself. You need Barney to come open it for you.
This place is a lot bigger than I thought.
I want to make it extra tempting by putting Armory as the label to this area.
Ah, it's good to see you. Put that down. It's a prototype.
Man, why aren't we using it?
Sector 3 bay breach detected.
Specifically put the head crab sound in the vent. Again, it's kind of silly, but sort of to make you keep in mind that maybe the head crab was, you know, the key antagonist in this whole mini mod here. Operations. Again, you know, sort of give the sense that the ship is a lot bigger than you're actually seeing it. I could have done that a lot better. A lot of these corridors are cramped and crowded, and I wish I had sort of expanded them vertically. See, of course, I know right where these turrets are. That one is killer. The one coming down the ladder. I wanted that to be a sign to the player that this was not going to be an easy area. There's Cryolab 1, by the way. Can't get in there. These turrets around each of these corners. Yeah, people have complained they're sort of unfair positioning, but if you were the military that just docked, designed to sort of take over the ship or eliminate people on the ship, that's where you would put turrets. You would put them where people were not looking. So, the grunt up on the catwalk, the same in the next area, the grunt up on the catwalk has grenades. You can see them, well, floating in the air there. But I did not give the people, the grunts on the ground, any contact grenades because, as anyone knows who's played Half-Life mods, they're more likely to blow themselves up than me, so. It's a lot easier on easy. Yeah, that turret up on the computers was also designed to be a tough one to get to. So, and the one other thing I put a little bit of work into was if the player here is really suffering on health and backtracks, I'm going to throw in a couple surprises for him. So, I mean, the idea is to backtrack all the way to the med lab if you needed to. So, Scientist and Barney are gone. There's a turret there. Surprise, surprise. Again, this is maybe something like 1% of the players did, but... turret there. But I reward the player with contact grenades, which may be, you know, nicely needed. Dead Grunt, Bloodstain, that's all spawned when the player crosses a certain trigger down in the cargo hold. So, minor things, but I like adding things like that to a map just to make it feel... So it's important to me to make this map feel alive, that it wasn't just... You weren't causing all the action or chaos in this map, that things were happening sort of regardless. So if you notice the Scientist and Barney, the idea behind Barney disappearing was that at the final escape pod, Barney meets you there. So, although I don't think I quite have that laid out in the doorways, I'm not sure there's a way he could physically have gotten there without going through this cargo bay. The idea being that, oh, he took a different path to meet you sort of at the escape pod. More head crab sounds in the vent. Bill's the one that presses the self-destruct button, of course.
Detonation device activated. Time to reach minimum said distance. 60 seconds.
This scrolling arrows to guide you to the escape pods were put in at Adam Foster's suggestion. He was a beta tester for this mod, so... It doesn't matter which escape path you take, it will be taken by Bill, so... These are mostly just copy and paste. You can see Bill there and actually shoot him if you want, but you can't kill him.
Emergency escape activated.
And it does actually blow up in 60 seconds, but I won't do that. I'll get in the pod. See, Barney's waiting for you. There's health. Doesn't matter that there's health there in this standalone mod. For Project Quantum Leap, it did matter. I wanted the player to be in fairly good shape going into the next.
Escape activated.
Let's get the hell out of here.
I'm not sure if I failed that or if I won. Oh, see, Mapper screwed up there. Yeah. See, if that triggered, that should have ended the map there. I don't know what I was doing. I was talking too much, but yeah. Yeah, so Adam Foster worked on Someplace Else, which was part of Project Quantum Leap, as was Radix. So yeah, we chummed around a bit back in the day. He beta tested Radix. I beta tested Someplace Else for him. Well, thanks. I hope that lended some insight into sort of my mind while making this, what I would do differently. I see everywhere I see in Radix, it's lack of detail, but it's tough being a mapper, 14 years removed from your own work. I'm still proud of it. I like it. I wish I had done a better job on all of it, but it stands as it is in 2002. So last little bit, I'll show you the map I did. Probably my first released map ever. So Radix was the first big playable map that I made. Rumble is the first map that I made and released. This was for a contest at the Valve Editing Resource Center, where you had to, what did it call? It was called it Martyred Pop Machine. You had to take a soda machine from Half-Life and, use it in an interesting way in the map. So, here goes. Here's Rumble. Yeah, not made as a playable map, more of a showcase. Again, a silly map. But. That was the first contest or competition that they did at the Valve Editing Resource Center.
That's odd.
This is all happening because of you scientists.
Shut up. Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Yep. Bring it on.
Shut up.
Again, I had great fun with the Half-Life dialogue in this map.
Oh my. End of the line for you. Man, did you see that shot?
That sound. What is it?
You aren't scared, are you?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, then I had the Garg versus the Pop Machine fight, which was a lot of fun too.
No, please.
The old Pop Rocks and Soda joke. Yeah. That was a fun map to put together. Yeah. No combat, of course. It was more of a showcase.
All of it.
But Martyr Pod Machine Contest, yeah. That was a lot of fun to build.
Ever seen anything like this?
Shut up.
It did not win. I actually came in second in that contest. There was one by Grey Dog, who built Hourglass, the map I played a few months ago for Classic of the Month. That was one that one won that contest, and yeah, deservedly. It was a pretty interesting map, but yeah, I came in second. I can't complain. It was fun to build in any case. So. All right, guys, that was a look at Radix. A little bit of making of, a little bit of inspiration behind it. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I'm open to suggestions for the next Classic of the Month.